Eagles talk on A2D Radio. We are talking Eagles corners today. Is Darius Slay gonna stay CB1 for the rest of the season? We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about how the rest of the room fills out, and then we'll touch on Saquon Barkley being the topic of discussion on Hard Knocks. A lot to discuss there too, and of course, Les Bond will join us as always. You've got it, Eagles Talk A2D Radio. Let's go.
You love the Eagles, let me get a hell yeah! You love the Philadelphia Eagles, let me get a hell yeah! Philadelphia!
Eagles Talk on A2D Radio. We are brought to you by Baggio's Bread, located in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. Make sure you mention A2D Radio for 10% off your in-store purchase. It's your boy Chucks, Brinks, and PY. Gentlemen, how's it going? How you doing?
Doing
Could
good.
always be better.
Could always be better, but I mean we're getting to it here.
We're getting
Training
to it,
camp.
right?
I saw on Sports Center today the Ravens are the first to open up in like 2 weeks, so it's
Oh,
coming.
there you go. There you go. I didn't even know that they were the first to open up training camp. That's
They're
awesome.
probably in that stupid Hall of Fame game or something like that.
Yeah,
Excuse me,
something
the black Sixer jerseys are back. That's the more important story.
Sixers
which
are
I
back.
love. I love the Black Sixers jerseys, but I mean,
Exactly.
we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's again, we're in that lull period of the NFL, but we're getting there. We've got about 2 months until week 1 officially starts. So
I want it now.
we're chugging it along, and we are here to talk, of course, Eagles. There's like a dust bunny in my face trying to get rid of it. But we're here to talk tonight to you and discuss the cornerback room. So we've had a lot of takes, a lot of stuff to talk about when it comes to the secondary. Let's talk in specifics, and let's try to hammer home very early predictions on how this cornerback room is going to play out this season. And like I said, also, Les will join us to talk about that. And then to end the show, we will talk about Saquon Barkley being the topic of discussion on Hard Knocks. For those of you who saw, AJ Brown even tweeted about it. So there's some conversation to be had there. But as we kick off our poll question, Quinyon Mitchell will surpass Darius Slay as the Eagles' best corner in 2024. Agree or disagree? Brinks, let's lead off with you. All right. So what do you think? Darius Slay is obviously, he was voted captain last year. We'll see if he is as a captain this year. He's still pretty good, but do you think that downturn of his career is going to hit really fast? Do you think Quinyon Mitchell, his rise as a rookie, is going to be that steep? What do you think?
Well, I'm going to disagree with the poll. I mean, for the Eagles to have ultimate defensive success here in 2024, Darius Slay has got to be the cornerback one. And then all these guys got to fall in behind him. Rodgers, Chauncey, Reed Blankenship, Mitchell, whoever else you want to throw in that room, whoever's going to be here. A lot of guys in that room. But, I mean, I think Darius Slay, I mean, he's kind of the leader of this defense, both in terms of his contract, in terms of his seniority, in terms of his stature amongst his peers in the league. So the best thing for the Eagles is for Darius Slay to have a kick-ass year, cornerback one, and, everyone else kind of falls in behind him. I don't know. I can't expect Quinyon Mitchell to come in and be Revis or Sauce Gardner or just a total lock defensive player of the year. I mean, and you look at how this defense is set up now. Like, it's been pass rushers the last couple of years. That's how the defense has been set up. Help the corners by getting a good pass rush. Guess what? Last year, the pass rush wasn't there. And it certainly wasn't there down the stretch when they needed him to be. And the whole defense was a dumpster fire. They couldn't stop a nosebleed. Now they've really addressed this secondary, and that starts with Darius Slay. That's what needs to happen. Darius Slay needs to have a good year for the Eagles to be a good enough defense to get to where they want to go, which is deep into January.
My bad.
Chuck.
I was muted.
Okay.
Sorry, I was muted. PY, what do you think?
So I really like the topic because it's one that we keep talking about. I see a lot of people, especially big Eagles names, talk about it. Is what's going on with Darius Slay? Is he going to be here? Are they going to do a whole new cornerback room? And it's just like, I just don't really understand it in a sense that, like, even if you're not the biggest Darius Slay guy, you don't like what he's doing off the field, you don't like how he is as a leader at times, the me stats. I get it. He's super talented. Like, he's good in the locker room. People like him. And like, he's your best corner. Like, I know people like have issues with him from time to time, but he's your best corner. If he's not your best corner, I really don't know what I'm supposed to feel, because while I like the cornerback room, I think it all goes along with what Darius Slay is doing for you. If Quinyon Mitchell is our best corner heading into this season, things have gone completely off the rails with Slay. Like, Slay must have an awful year, or Quinyon Mitchell's an all-pro as a rookie. Like, that's basically where I am with it. Like, I don't think Quinyon Mitchell is going to surpass Slay. Like, my issue with the Slay stuff is when people look at him, they don't look at – so when he talks about, oh, I did my job, and he usually does, people will pick on one play where he got beat, or, somebody blocked him, or, something that's happening that caused him to not be in the right position, and they'll pick on that, but they won't pick on the rest of the game where he was Revis-esque shutdown type of situation. They'll look at that one play and be like, Darius Slay is cheeks. And you're just like, what game were you watching? Like, I know PFF ranked him really low heading into this season, but like, I still think he was a really good corner last year. Like, we missed him a lot when he was not here. Like, when he was out for that period of time, like, this team was suffering. We got air raided by the Cardinals. By the freaking Drew Lock. Like, are we serious with this? Like I just don't understand it. Like, Slay at his core, like, is your best corner. Like, if he continues to teach Quinyon Mitchell and be a great veteran and continue to be what he was last year, like, he's CB1 and he's exactly what you need. Like, as much as I like Quinyon Mitchell, maybe I don't love him as much as Chucks does, but I see how talented the kid is. However, with all that talent and with all that said, I just can't see him supplementing Slay at this moment.
Chucks is muted.
Sorry. I keep doing that. Sorry.
On purpose.
My bad. Let me start that over. As I was saying, both of you have with good points. I want to get to the chat before I give my 2 cents. Andrew Baker, our first comment of the evening, he says, I hope so. Slay has regressed, and he's only getting older. He's not a bad corner, but he's slipped out of the top 10. Mr. Tom Unknown, Mr. Big Guy says, it might be hard for him to do this year, but soon, absolutely. John Mama says, I can't wait for football. I'm already tired of Sixers talk. I'm ready for an all-star break. Pete says, the poll question is tough to answer.
Is it really, Pete?
Why would Andrew Baker say, I hope so?
Yeah, I don't know why he was.
That's bad. That's bad for the Eagles.
So can you bring that comment back real quick? Baker's comment.
Yeah.
He slipped out of the top 10. So what is he? 10 to 15? So at this moment in time right now, like, Andrew Baker, like, send in another comment. Where do you think Quinyon Mitchell is going to be in this season? Do you think he's a top 32 corner right now in the NFL? Like, do you think he's in the 20s? Do you think he's 25? Do you think if he's ahead of Slay, I have Slay in between like 9 to 15. Is he between 9 and 15 right now?
I think the part of the comment that he needs more clarification on is the first part where he says, I hope so. Like, why would you hope so? Like
Because he doesn't like Slay.
Exactly. And that's my main issue with people when they talk about Slay. It's an emotional thing. You just don't like him, so you hope he sucks, so you have something to talk about. It's like the people who don't like the Schwarber stuff. They're like, oh, see, this one game shows I was correct.
Yeah, we got John Malmus. He says disagree, not this year.
Yes.
And then Don has a question we'll get to later.
Oh my.
And let me see if there's anything else. Oh, Ryan says send Bradbury packing, please. Yeah,
the Steelers might have some opening right now.
Maybe. Oh yeah,
because Cam Sutton's out for 8 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Ryan Swope says maybe by the end of the year into next year, but not immediately though. So keep chiming in, guys. Keep the comments coming. It's definitely an interesting topic. And like, so the reason why I can understand where Pete's coming from here, saying it's tough to answer, because when you look at it, and when we had a conversation going into last season, right? And even like during the season, Bradbury had an immense year in 2022, the Super Bowl year. But come 2023, he totally fell off a cliff, right? And I guess you can say like maybe we had our Eagles blinders on, but it was hard. A lot of us like didn't want to see that coming, but it does. And for corners, and I've said it over and over, when that wall hits, it hits hard for corners, right? And so like I don't want it to happen, and I'm not even going to say it's most likely to happen, but there is a realm of possibility that Darius Slay, given his age, he is going to hit some type of similar wall where like he just regresses. Maybe the athleticism just isn't there anymore at this age. It's not impossible. And when you factor in the expectations for Quinyon Mitchell, the first corner taken in this draft, someone who like highly touted in terms of athleticism, and the only knock against him as a prospect was his where he played, right, at Toledo. That's literally only it. He's highly touted. Like the expectations are high. So when you factor those in, like I can see why it's a tough ball question, because even if you think Slay is good, you can try to answer the poll question in the sense of you want Quinyon Mitchell to be that good to where, as good as Slay is right now, you want Mitchell to exceed him and be this great corner right off the bat. So those expectations are understandable. Are they fair? Like you said, Brinks, no, they're not fair. Like he's going to have his struggles. He's a rookie corner, so he's going to struggle. I am going to disagree to the poll though in the end, because I have too much respect for Slay, and I still believe he's a good corner. He's like you said, PY. Like if he's not top 10, he's like 11 and 15, somewhere around that range. Like and like when we say like a linear ranking of players, it doesn't give the clear explanation of like, okay, like even if they're not top 10, are they still good? Like are they still a good player? And even though Slay may not be top 10, like it doesn't mean he's not good. So I think Slay has to be, for us to be a Super Bowl contender, Slay has to be like what he was still. Like he's got to be a good corner, because there's too many question marks beyond that, and we need his veteran leadership. Like him being a veteran, him knowing what it's like to shadow the elite wide receivers. That's important. So like, I will come playoff time, we're going to need that kind of experience and and play from him to be able to really go up against the top contenders, because it's just there's nothing that's, and I'm not saying I'm not high on our rest of the corners, but there's no one that's proven. So like you want to have that comfortability. So I really hope that Mitchell continues to like exceed expectations, and I hope that he turns out to be great. But in terms of surpassing Slay, for 2024, I personally don't see it happen.
No. Like I think people, if they had their way, your starting corners would be obviously Mitchell, DeJean, and who's the nickel guy I'm forgetting?
Maddox.
No, not Maddox. Rogers. I'm sorry, Rogers.
He's not a nickel though.
You can't play. Well, I thought they were talking about possibly having him on the outside
Maybe,
or
but he's
or
not.
at nickel.
Well, he's not a nickel though. He has he's played some snaps here and there, but primarily he's an outside corner, and he has said it too. He's come out and say like he's not a nickel. He's an outside corner.
Yeah, like that would scare me. Like as much as like people don't want Slay in there, like do you really like want 3 guys who have been kind of untested? Like Rodgers hasn't played in a year, and I really, as much as I like Mitchell and I like DeJean, I have no idea what they're going to be as pros.
Yeah,
I know what I'm getting. I know what I'm getting from Darius Slay. I know I'm getting a top 10 possible corner.
Yeah, no, I hear you. It's tough because and Andrew Baker comes in and he gives some names. He says Sauce, Surtain, Jair Alexander, Jalen Ramsey, Jalen Johnson, Marcus Lattimore, Denzel Ward, Charvarius Ward, Sneed, McDuffie, Witherspoon. He said Marlon Humphrey too. So like,
yeah, no,
I like those names. So I totally understand. Like if you're talking about moving forward, I would probably pick a lot of those moving forward too. What I want to make clear though, McDuffie for one is a slot guy.
Yeah,
he's not an outside guy. Witherspoon does play both. Depends on the packages. So like when they're in base, he moves to the outside. When they're in nickel or sub packages, he plays nickel. But he does play both. So I'll give him that. So like it's again, I totally get it. It's when it comes to linear rankings, you've got to factor in that like, hey, he may not be top 10, but it doesn't mean he's still not good. And that's all it's saying. Like he's still a really good corner. And that's why you make fun of me, PY, all the time. But that is why I do tiers. Because when you do tiers, you get to see like you break down, hey, who's in the same ranking, same level as other guys. It gives more context to when you give rankings. Ryan does say, isn't this a hybrid guy? Is he going to be more of a safety or a corner? I think safety. Ryan, we answered this before. So like he's never played safety. I think they're going to try to make him work as a corner first and then see what else he can do. But he's going to start as a corner. That's what he is. So it's going to be interesting how to see how things move forward with him too. So let's go. Let me go to Don's question. So Don asked, I know it's early, but what are y'all thoughts on the week 1 matchup between Eagles secondary versus Green Bay wide receivers? And then John says there's no way how he's done with his team. There's free agent Simmons, and I'd love to trade for Khalil Mack. So I would take I would take Khalil Mack if the price is right.
Sure, 7th-round pick.
Yeah,
a late round pick because they didn't. I don't know if with his age, I don't think he's going to demand like a second or third. But like if it's like a 5th round pick, I'm down because Mack was still good. Mack was still good last year. So and we don't have anyone that can, like you said, Brinks. You don't have anyone that can set the edge. And Mack can
the pass rush, you can't even tell who the best pass rush is right now. You have guys who you hope, but there's no one you can pencil as a surefire number 1 pass rusher on this team right now.
Yeah.
I take Simmons though.
Go back to the Packers question.
Yeah. So there you go. Go ahead.
It's going to be tough. You have a lot of rookies, which we just talked about. A lot of newness, new coach. Packers are really good. And the game's in Brazil, which stinks. It's just how much but how much more out of your element can you have an NFL debut secondary? Mm-hmm. You're in a basically a third world country. You have to take armored cars everywhere, or you might get killed. You're playing a really good team. You're getting cheated out of a home game. Like it's nonsense. So they're getting put to the fire early, which I think is good. I don't know how good it's going to go. I don't have to. That's 2 months away. I don't have to predict the game, but it's going to be tough. It's one of the harder games on the schedule. It's right off the bat. New coach, a lot of new players, strange venue. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. But they're gonna be tested early, quick. Because Matt LaFleur is a really good coach.
Yes, and
who's he going to be picking on? He's going to be picking on Cooper and Quinyon and Isaiah Rodgers, who hasn't played in a year. He's going to have those guys circled on his game plan, especially when a good coach has, 4 months to prepare for one opponent.
I think that another thing you got to consider is that with Fangio's scheme, it's going to take a little bit for everyone to really gel. You know what I mean? So like with Fangio, there's a lot of detail in what he teaches, and it's going to probably take several weeks till you see them fully understand. I know that with Gannon, and then last year with what's his name, who was Desai. Like I know the schemes were similar, but they were branches of what Fangio teaches. Fangio is the guy, so like what he's teaching is there's so much more subtlety and detail to what he is teaching. And so it's going to take a few weeks for everyone to really click and understand. And we can anticipate the same thing for the offensive side. So first several weeks for both units, offensively, schematically, I should say, is going to take some time. It's just going to take some time. So I understand that. The thing with the Packers, like, this can be a good thing or a bad thing, but they have no clear-cut number one wide receiver, but they have 4 legit wide receivers. Like, in my opinion, the best wide receiver they have is Jaden Reed, but you can make an argument for Dontavian Wicks. You can make an argument for freaking Christian Watson. But even like what's the other one? Dobbs. Like he's proven to be a good wide receiver. Like they have 4 legit wide receivers. Oh, and don't forget Rector's guy, he's sleeper, Bo Melton, who has made plays when he has been asked on. So like 5 wide receivers deep of reliable wide receivers. Even though they don't have a true number one, it's going to be hard to pinpoint and focus on one wide receiver. So it's going to be good. It's going to be a good test for Fangio and this defense for sure, definitely for sure. So like to dive into that more, right? Let's look at this secondary. Well, not the secondary. Let's look at the cornerback room as a whole. Then, right? Let's start to make, because we've been talking the past few ever since the free agency, I guess we've been talking about this secondary and the cornerbacks, and then with the draft, I was drafting 2 corners, Isaiah Rodgers coming back. A lot has been projected and discussed about like who's going to fit in where, right? So way early predictions, very, very early, but let's predict who we think is going to slot out at certain positions. Who's going to win these starting jobs? So I'm going to start with you, PY, first. You got outside corner, and you've got nickel corner. Okay. Who do you think is going to be? Who do you think are going to be the 3 starters at those spots?
So CV1, I think obviously it's going to be Slay. So CV2 is going to surprise people. I think it's going to be Rodgers. And nickel, I think Cooper DeJean is going to beat out Maddox. With his little price tag, I can't see him standing.
Okay, you want to give reasons?
He can never stay healthy. I think the fact that they brought him back on such a little price tag and they let him go out and then find any team to be able to bring him elsewhere, and the fact that nobody was willing to take him on despite the talent kind of shows how little the Eagles are kind of vibing with him right now. And I just think Cooper is so versatile and is such a hybrid type guy that I think he's going to beat him out.
Okay. How about why Rodgers?
I think when Rodgers was playing a few years ago, I think that he showed that like he could be a stud on the outside. And I think due to the fact that Mitchell is young and he's a rookie, I think they might give the nod to the veteran to start things out and not throw him out there immediately. I think Mitchell's going to have every opportunity to earn a shot in camp because there is no clear-cut CB2 right now. But I think they might give the nod to Rodgers because clearly they saw something in him to where last year they were willing to wait the whole year.
Gotcha. All right, Brinks, what do you think? Who's going to be the starting three?
Slay, obviously. Mitchell, I mean, what did we have, 22? What was he, the 22nd pick in the draft?
22, right? Yeah, I think 22.
22, 23. Like, first-round picks start right away in this league.
Not
That's
always
the way it is. He's more talented than Rodgers. If Rodgers wants to blow him out of the water a year off in training camp and earn the spot, cool. And then nickel, I need to teach Cooper DeJean one position. He needs to be good at one position before we do the safety, the nickel, the outside corner, and start treating him like a Swiss Army knife. You got to bring him along slow. So he's not my starting nickel back when he's been outside corner and pretty good at it at Iowa in the Big Ten, which is a big deal for me when I'm scouting players, as you guys know. So, I mean, that leaves Avante at nickelback. Now, Avante is going to get hurt. It's like Embiid. He's going to miss time. Just a matter of when. And you need to have Cooper or Rodgers or whoever ready for when Avante Maddox can't answer the bell to be ready to go. Avante Maddox is pretty good when he's present and accounted for it.
Very good.
But you said the key word.
Well, it's week one.
Yeah.
We're talking about week one lineup. So if he gets hurt in training camp, then everything's going to be accelerated. Then it's probably going to be Cooper out there. But if he's healthy, like he's the best week one nickel corner this team has.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So I am going to say I think I'm going to agree with Brinks here. If I'm going to project it, it's going to be Slay. And then CB2, it's tough because we've been hearing great things about Ringo. We've been hearing good things about Rodgers. I mean, I know it's minicamp, but we've been hearing it, so those are good signs. I think in the end, though, Brinks has a point. I think Rodgers and Ringo would have to blow Mitchell out of the water in order for them to win the starting job over him because Mitchell was the first-round pick. He's the guy who's tabbed with that first-round pick label. So what they invested in him is a lot more. So they're going to give him a longer leash. So they're going to have to really, really outplay him drastically if they're going to win the job over Mitchell. So I think it's going to be Mitchell at the end of the day. I have to see it to believe. Like Mitchell's also either going to have to be really bad, like really, really bad in training camp for him to lose that spot. So I think it's going to be Mitchell. And then I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to say for nickel, it's going to traditionally be Maddox. So Maddox is going to be there at, slotted in. But I think it also depends on the package because hear me out. I think that when the Eagles if the Eagles want to go big nickel, right? If they want to go with a heavier package when the offense lines up in heavier personnel or a run-based look, I think that DeJean is going to be the nickel there for their big nickel package because obviously he's bigger than Avante Maddox, so he fit the run better. So I think on those packages, it's going to be DeJean. But on true sub, where you're talking about just true nickel, or if we're playing dime, then I think it's going to be Maddox. So I'm cheating a little bit. My answer is Maddox, but I think DeJean. That's how DeJean's going to is going to get his role. Is I think he's going to be rotated in depending on what package you're looking at and you're using. And then I think with Rodgers, if/when I don't hope for it because I love Maddox. But if and when Maddox gets hurt, I think they're going to cross-train Rodgers to be that backup nickel in those packages that Maddox was in. And then Ringo is just going to be the flat-out backup outside corner because he can't play safety. He can't play slot, he's outside corner. So he's going to be slotting as the backup there. So I think that's how it's going to be played out. I don't think, and with Fangio's scheme, like there's a lot of like gray area and crossover between safety's responsibilities and nickel. So depending on what you're looking at, like you could say that DeJean is going to be playing safety because his responsibility would be similar to what a safety would be doing in certain looks and certain schemes and stuff like that. But I think generally you're looking at DeJean to be. I like him at the nickel because I think that he has a tenacity to play there, like in run support. I think he's good he's definitely good enough in coverage against tight ends. So that is what you're really looking at. So I think that's what's going to play out. I think it's going to be really interesting. But I can see a situation where Rodgers, I can see it, PY. I can see an instance where Rodgers does outplay and earns that CB2 spot, but it's going to take a lot. I think if I'm going to rate the chances, rank it like what the likelihood is, I think it's most likely going to be Quinyon. I think second most likely it's going to be Rodgers, and then lastly I think it's going to be Ringo. So, and then I think with, like I said, I think with DeJean it's going to be mixed. I think they're going to start him off in the nickel because and play him there and see. I think that's going to be his first spot as nickel.
John Malmo. So if you're counting on Mitchell getting hurt, why is he even on the team when we have multiple players that can do the same job? I didn't sign him. Howie did, John. That's all. That's all I can say to that one.
He's consistently shown that he's good. Like even if you're not clocking or counting on him to be there the full time, like what you're getting out of Avonte Maddox when he is on the field.
And here's the thing, he's not making a lot anymore. Like it'd be one thing if he was on his last on his previous contract, but on what they signed him for now, he's not costing you anything. So you're bringing in a guy when he's been healthy and on the field is one of the better slot corners in the league at a minimal cost.
Exactly.
So there's very little downside or risk to that. So that's why you bring him in. So like I totally understood the argument of like I don't want him on the team if he's just going to get hurt and we're paying him that much. That was totally understandable. But now
when he was making like the $15 million a year, which is what his previous contract was, you just couldn't trust that when you're only going to probably get him for the 8 games a year. When you're making $4 million a year and you're telling me I get one of the best slot corners in the NFL, even if he doesn't play every game, I'm fine with that.
Yep. Same. All right, guys. Bajo's Bread. Another reminder. Mention A2D Radio. You get 10% off your in-store purchase. And remember, make sure you click that like, subscribe, get the notifications up. Thank you for continuing to follow us and being with us, through this whole off season of dead NFL talk. We appreciate you still having these conversations. We miss football. I'm pretty sure you miss football too. Dynasty does have a good comment here because he absolutely agrees to the poll. He's still a top corner in this league, and Mitchell isn't a Sauce Ramsey, so there's naturally going to be growing pains early on. I think he means disagree because he's leading on with saying that Slay is still a top corner. So I think he likes Slay. Yeah. So
as he should.
Yeah. Andrew Baker says pass rush is still a concern for us. Lost both Cots and Reddick. Reddick, who was our best passer last year, and now we act like he stinks.
Nobody acts like that. That's just not true. What we act like is, while we all love Hassan Reddick and while we still wish Hassan Reddick was here, there's a reason why he's not here. And there's also a reason why he's not with the Jets when they were at training camp right now. That just tells you all you need to know. The fact that they let their best pass rusher just walk for pennies on the dollar and they traded him for what they traded for, and the fact that he's doing what he's doing in New York, that should tell you that maybe there's some leadership qualities that he's just doesn't have, and B, they felt they were better without him in the long term, and they knew his contract was going to cause issues, which it's still causing in New York.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
this is a guy that's on a different team every other year. You know,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. I mean,
what
he's
did T.O. say? What did T.O. say? If it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. Oh,
I don't blame Reddick for wanting money, but I get
No,
at the
he
same point,
deserves his money.
yeah.
Like
If
he's one of
you
the
want some
best.
money, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. He should get as much money as either the Bosa brothers and Myles Garrett. Like that is a fact. However,
I wouldn't say that.
he
He's not
should. I'm
that
sorry.
good.
If you go by the last few years, he is right up there with all
Hassan
three of
Reddick
them.
did not have a sack in the month of December last year. That's 4 games.
was.
Myles Garrett doesn't go a defensive series without disrupting the football game.
Yeah, Briggs has a point. Like how he ended this, how the season ended with him doesn't help his cause.
It doesn't.
With him being a certain type of pass rusher, and he's not on the level of those guys you mentioned. He's just not. He's not. And like he's like a tier 2, tier 3, where those guys are all tier 1, and like teams know that. And I'm pretty sure the agent knows that. So he's not going to get that type of money, but he should get some type of money. I hear you, but not that type of money. That's a little too far. Like, and I support him if he wants to get his bag. Absolutely, go get it. But if that's what you're prioritizing right now over,
I mean, it's 100% what he's prioritizing.
That's your prerogative. Just it's not going to be here. Like you're going to have to sacrifice, and it ended up being the case. He had to sacrifice playing for his hometown team, and there's nothing wrong with that, but that's just the result. And we talked about it a couple weeks ago, but like it shocks me the Jets were the Jets tried to say, oh look, we'll give you a deal later on. Like,
is it bro? Like it shouldn't have shocked you. It's the Jets.
We know what you're saying. I'm saying from just a smart managerial standpoint, like that shouldn't have happened. That shouldn't have happened. I get it.
It shouldn't have, but it just fits.
I know. You on your you like to poke fun of bad teams. I get it. I understand.
No, I just like to poke fun of the Jets because they're stupid.
Well, you poke fun at a lot of teams.
I do, yes.
John, that's my point. John Malman says we now have an overloaded defensive backfield. Brown will start the season on PUP. He could be back by November. Yeah, and I don't know. Like, bring him like Les said last week. Bring him along slowly and take your time with him because he could be the future of the safety room.
Yep.
You don't want to bring him back too early.
Yeah, you don't need to force it with Sidney. He's coming back from an ACL tear. Like, slow and steady wins the race with him.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which is why I'm completely cool with going out and getting someone like a Simmons to where I don't have to force Sidney Brown to start week 1 if he's not ready.
Yeah. So Angry Bear's comments here, I definitely want to dive into this because he's saying sneaking through. Only thing I worry about is switching to 3-4 and not having the players to run it. We're not switching anything. The fronts that we've been having the past 2 years are
same thing.
It's going to be the same thing. Like I think people, and I say this every once in a while because we always get a comment like this. So I'm gonna clear it up, and I'm gonna just put it all out there again. The whole notion of a 3-4 or 4-3 is old. That's like years ago. Teams don't really play 3-4-4-3, okay? Because we live in a sub-package world, it's not like that anymore. You're talking about all sub-packages. So you're talking about like 5-2 maybe, but you're living in a nickel and dime world. And so that's one. And then two, the Eagles have had these fronts. Like, why do you think Josh Sweat and Hassan Reddick have some snaps where their hands aren't in the dirt? Why do you think there are some snaps where Reddick and Josh Sweat are dropping into coverage? Because they play outside linebacker with certain packages. So, like, it's not about 3-4-4-3. It's not about that. It's about when we have Fangio's scheme now, he's going to have them do different responsibilities because in terms of zone coverage. He's going to have it. The approach is going to be different from what Gannon, because Gannon was very conservative. He was more Eberflus than it was Fangio, even though that's similar, tree. Like, he was very conservative. Desai was like in between the two, I guess you can say. Desai was willing to blitz a little bit more and be a little bit more aggressive, but he still is conservative. But Fangio likes to zone blitz. He brings the fire blitzes on certain occasions, but that scheme is not about blitzing all the time. But he uses fire blitzes. He uses zone exchanges and everything like that. So it's not about 3-4-4-3. So Angry Bear, don't worry about that. Don't worry about them switching because the fronts are going to be the same. It's going to be very similar to what we've been seeing. So
You have a nose tackle, like a true legitimate nose tackle.
For that reason.
Yeah, the teams that switch and try and go from 4-3 to 3-4 because they just are poorly run and don't think ahead, and like they try and do a 3-4 with, say, a Fletcher Cox at nose tackle. That's not what Fletcher Cox is.
Nope. Yes, correct.
It's not going to work.
Yep.
Like
Gordon
Davis is 300 and whatever pounds. Like if you don't double team him, he could easily disrupt the football game. And that
finally could be playing the nose tackle role he was born to play.
Correct. So,
but also
let's
not act like
3-man front.
Like let's also not act like we're playing the same system. Like there's going to be a few wrinkles here and there, but like it's still the Fangio system. You're just getting the actual guy who knows how to run it best to run it.
Yeah,
that's it.
I don't want to say it's the same system, but same tree.
But like the same concepts.
Yeah, so concepts are similar, but like I was saying, Gannon and Desai did different things.
Yeah.
Because when the further you get out, the more influence you have from other things. So like Eberflus has a lot of influence on what Gannon did, and Desai was more Fangio than Gannon was. So you saw a little bit more of what the Fangio stuff, but it's still not completely the same, but it's similar tree. So the philosophy is the same. The philosophy of, hey, you're going to play zone coverage, you're going to play 2 high shells to take away explosive plays. That's the concept. You're in the zone. But I digress. Keep it coming. Oh, Greg, I always love Greg's comments because it's always it's always controversial.
Interesting.
Greg says, "What's up, fellas? Disagree with the poll. I know Slay is a lightning rod, but he's still damn good. Expect high things from Q, but he's just a rookie, so let him breathe." A rare, objective, and smart take from Greg Milakovic. Love it. I love
I'm actually a little surprised. The second I saw Greg's name, I'm like, oh, where's the hot take?
I know. Where's the hot take?
It's based in reality and like factual, consistent evidence. I'm a little disappointed.
Guys, if you're still listening, keep it coming. Keep the comments coming. Keep talking about the Eagles cornerback room. What do you think? What are your predictions? We gave ours. Give us your predictions for the starting 3 corners for the Eagles week 1 in 2024. Okay, so let us know what you think. I want to touch on the other subject, the other topic we're going to talk about today, which is Hard Knocks. Oh, baby, because I know you two didn't really watch the whole episode. I did. All right. It's the Brinksler I was telling you before we came on. It's fun. I like this iteration of Hard Knocks because you get to see what teams are doing during free agency and preparing for the draft, which is like, to me, there's only so much entertainment you can get from preseason because it's freaking preseason. You got rookies, you've got undrafted free agents, you got like bubble guys finding roster spots. That's cool and all, but like it's not as fun as seeing like your front office discussing how they're going to approach the offseason. That's interesting. So episode 1 had a lot of good takes, and a lot of the hot topic was Saquon Barkley. I think we all kind of anticipated when this show was announced that like the Saquon Barkley stuff is going to be big news or a big topic of a big discussion. And then, man, was it. I want to say that the one scout that they highlighted for the Giants, superb job.
We hired that guy.
Yeah, someone's got to hire that guy. Another these guys because he deserves a promotion.
Only one with a pulse in the room.
For one, I liked, obviously they showed his scouting. They had showed him dictating some of his scouting reports on some of the players in free agency, which is good to see, good to hear. But when he was in the room with all of those executives, and especially that one clip that went viral when Joe Shane was saying like, oh, like it's not realistic for us to sign and trade Saquon, and we're just gonna have him, hinting that they're gonna have him walk in free agency. Like that scout, and I gotta get his name right. I gotta find out what his name is, but that scout was the only one with the logic sense. Like, hey, are we sure that there's not a team that's going to sign Saquon to a big contract because, he's good. And then like Joe Shane is going to be like, yeah, but he said there are a lot of free agent running backs, and everything. And the scout was like, yeah, but I loved this line. He said, yeah, but are any of them difference makers? Like when you watch the film, and I loved that. I got so hyped hearing him say that because these guys in the front office GMs, and how he has capitalized on the switch, but like they've gone so overboard. The market has gone so extreme the one way against running backs to where they devalue them and they say like, oh, they're all the same. Like, no. When you have an elite running back in Saquon Barkley, an elite talent, a difference maker, that's a difference. That makes a huge difference. And they are difference makers. Like we've talked about when we were discussing QBs, right? I mentioned, hey, like, QBs, you divide them into categories of QBs you can win because of, QBs you can win with. Like, in terms of running backs, there aren't a lot of running backs you can win because of. Saquon is. So when that scout was defending Saquon and saying like he's a difference maker, he's the only difference maker in free agency, I gave him a round of applause. So it was amazing to hear that. And then like it's just funny knowing what we know now, and how it played out, to see Joe Shane and the rest of those Giants, the Giants front office members, like seeing like their hesitancy to go with Saquon. I think it's going to be very, very entertaining moving forward. Before I have you guys touch on, we do have a late edition, Mr. Les.
I'm so sorry, guys. How are you?
No problem. Glad you on.
My brain is somewhere on I-95. I was driving a U-Haul up today from North Carolina with some stuff from my mom's house, and I knew I was doing this, and then I just sort of zoned out. I ate dinner and was kind of sitting on the couch thinking, there's something I'm supposed to be doing. Oh, yeah.
Gotcha. No problem.
So I guess I can't run for president now.
Oh my
No,
God.
you still can.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah, let's have you touch on our poll question, or the
Yes.
topic pretty much, and then we'll finish off with you. And we can talk about Hard Knocks real quick. But our poll question was, Quinyon Mitchell will surpass Darius Slay as the best corner in 2024, and we talked about we gave our predictions of who we think will win the starting jobs in week 1. So if you want to talk about both questions.
Yeah, it's way premature to say that. Over the years, rookie corners have had a mix. It's been a mixed bag at best.
Yeah.
There have been a few who have been great right off the bat. Most, even ones who turn out to be Pro Bowl, All Pro, aren't great right off the bat. And to say that he's definitely, I have a lot of respect for Slay. I know he didn't have a great year last year, but I still think he's a very good corner. And even he wasn't, as a rookie, he wasn't a great corner, I just think there's a lot to learn there. It's a new system for everybody, and certainly for Quinyon Mitchell. And I think, after I see the preseason and the camp and what everybody's saying, maybe I'll feel differently. But sitting here right now on July 8th, I can't. I would never say that. I just won't go there. What was the other part of it? Who the starters will be?
Yeah, who the starters will be.
I'm going to go with Slay and Isaiah Rodgers, frankly.
There we go.
Why? Okay.
I think Isaiah Rodgers is a proven starting corner in the NFL, who sat out a year just because of the gambling thing. It wasn't that he was hurt or something like that. I don't mean to minimize the gambling thing, but it's over, it's done with.
Yeah.
It's nothing that's going to come back to haunt the Eagles, I don't think. So, and he apparently had an excellent spring. So going into camp, which is, a long way from anywhere, those are the two I would pick. And I'm a little interested in what's going to happen in the slot. I don't know what
Yeah.
the deal is going to be there. I kind of don't think I love Avonte Maddox, but bringing him back this year is kind of like when they brought Derek Barnett back. It was kind of as a favor to Avonte Maddox more than anything else. I don't know that he's even going to make the team. I mean, and he might play safety. That's the other part of it. So Zach McPherson, Kelly Ringo. I don't know who's the slot guy, but those are the two I'd count on for outside. And I don't think they'll put Mitchell out in the slot. I don't think they'll try to move him around that much. But right now, my two would be Slay and Isaiah Rodgers.
Rodgers. Yeah, we were talking like PY said Rodgers as CB2. Brinks and I said Mitchell just because like with that first round tag,
Oh yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I wouldn't predict it.
It's
possible, sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. With the slot, what I had said was so like with Maddox, it's like he's shown that when, which is the big question, when he's healthy, he's one of the better slot corners. With him on the new contract that he's on, it's so cheap. There's like a low risk to it. So like if he has a good camp again and shows he's still the same player, I think that it makes sense for him to start at slot still. I think that also what I had said was I think depending on the package, like if you go to big nickel, I think Cooper DeJean is
he'll get in there somewhere. He'll be in the mix somehow. And of course, guys get hurt. You never play the same three guys at three corners all 17 games. That's astonishing if that happens. There'll be other people who'll get chances to start in there. There's no doubt about it. And I wouldn't be shocked at all to see Cooper DeJean get the slot thing. With Avonte, I hope I'm wrong, but I kind of think the injuries are starting to
wear on him.
That he's not maybe quite what he was 4 years ago. But I'd like to be wrong because I have a tremendous amount of respect for that guy. I think he has worked his butt off and he's been fearless and a team first guy and all that stuff. So I hope I'm wrong about that, but I kind of have a feeling that he's kind of on the way out here. I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either, just because like it's like you said, it's new contract and like maybe the injuries just have affected because like when he came back after the injury late last year,
he was not good.
He was not good. So I know he came back really quickly. So maybe that was that, or was that a sign of things to come? We don't know. We'll see. We'll see in training camp. That's good points. The other topic, Les, before we head out of here at the show, we were talking about Hard Knocks. I don't know if you watched it or at least saw the clips.
I saw the clips,
of Joe Shane and company discussing Saquon Barkley. So, like, I had given my initial thoughts. So, if you and then Brinks and PY want to give your thoughts based on what you saw, but I think it's hilarious. I find it very entertaining. For one, I think the show gives an interesting look at the team from where they're from preparing for free agency and the draft. And I loved seeing the one scout defend Saquon Barkley and his value against the rest of that front office. So I just want you guys' opinions on what you saw from Hard Knocks.
Yeah, for me, whenever you see the general manager trying to explain something to an owner, and what he's trying to explain is here's why this really good player isn't going to be playing for us this year. That's always a bad thing, I think. It's like, how did this happen? Well, and, what he said made sense. The real problem here is the contract they gave their quarterback. I mean, it all stems from that. And once you accept that they did that, then you can't fault them too much for the Barkley decision. But the problem is they should never have done that.
Yeah.
So My favorite thing about the whole Hard Knocks thing is when my good friend is a Giants fan. Every year I get like text messages heading into the season. What do you think we should do? What don't you think we should do? And I still remember when they won the playoff game. I'm like, oh, dude, that's like the worst thing that's going to happen to you. And he's just like, I don't get it. And he's like, no, this is what's going to happen. They're going to pay Jones an obscene amount of money because there's no other options. And they're not going to pay Saquon. And that's exactly what happened. They paid Jones $40 million because the 1 year their head coach decided we're going to take the ball out of the quarterback's hand and limit what he can do and not do. And we're going to force feed Saquon at every opportunity. It got the quarterback paid. Now they lose their true quarterback, aka Saquon Barkley, their true playmaker, which is something they talked about. They're like, well, our whole offense
didn't really replace him. That's the biggest sin.
The best part about that is they spent like a whole segment being like, oh, well, you know, there's other guys we could get. We could get DeAndre Swift. You know, it's going to be hard getting him out of Philly. Or they're like, Chucks, what running back were they talking to during Hard
Singletary? There was Jacobs. There was Joe.
No, there was
Austin Eckler, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was a player they were talking to, like on the field, about why they didn't.
Oh, Frank Gore. They're
talking to Frank Gore about how they don't want any running back over 27, and they signed a running back who's 27 in Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary wasn't even like the 15th best free agent running back last year.
And then they're talking to Frank Gore about running backs over 27. Frank Gore probably has more rushing yards over the age of 27 than 95% of the guys who put on a helmet at that position.
Love it.
Like this is a misappropriation of assets by the Giants. Like they paid the quarterback, they shouldn't have paid the quarterback, and they were stuck. Like all this like rigmarole with that meeting.
That fifth-year option, man.
What's that? Well, they shouldn't have done that.
Year option. It's a snowball effect from that one option not being picked up. Because if they picked it up, everything else would be different.
But the conversation that everyone's fixated on isn't Daniel Jones right now. It's that they were trying to skimp at running back because they paid Daniel Jones. And those kinds of conversations less probably happen about every player at every position for the past 50 years. It was just on HBO right now, and there's a bunch of people like us on the internet and TikTok that are just going to blow it up and just make it worse for the Giants.
And this is why the Eagles will never do hard
knocks. That guy's a dork. That guy's a total dork. We talk about it on the Final Whistle all the time with Doug Minkiewicz, who's been a AAA manager, Team USA, been in front offices, and he's just like somewhere along the way, somebody gave all these dorks with spreadsheets control of sports. And then your boy Chucks is trying to be like the voice of reason, and no one listens to him.
I don't even know that spreadsheets explain the Daniel Jones.
Yeah, like contract. It's not even like you're giving nerds.
Because it's the running back position has been devalued by these nerds.
No, but that's just by the NFL in general. Like that's like
I kind of agree with that in general. I'm not Barkley helps the Eagles a great deal. But am I real fired up about running backs in general being the key to winning a Super Bowl?
But Saquon Barkley is not your everyday average running back.
I think that's the point.
And that's why the Eagles went out and got him. Though.
Right.
Like, that's the key thing.
But that's what the Giants didn't recognize.
The Giants aren't doing that.
Too much money because they're pigeonholed and say, "Oh, we got this guy. We want a playoff game with him. We got to give him all this money."
I think what
you're misunderstanding is they're not doing this. Anything. I think you are because they're not doing this because of like the numbers are saying this. They're just being cheap.
Yeah. I don't think there was any analytics involved in this, but
they're scared they can't build a football team. Because
they should have paid him $40 million,
money, which isn't the way you should go about it.
Yes, that's how bad teams run football teams. You are correct.
Peter had a very good
what I just said, and you say I'm confused. So I'm not confused at all.
Hey, let's talk. Let's talk.
Yeah, I was just going to say Peter had a very good point about when the Giants made the playoffs. It was disaster, and I can tell you that there are actually people who cover the Giants who understood that at the time, that this was not a real good team.
Yep.
They didn't have, they played a lot of bad teams that year, and it was a surprise. They weren't supposed to be any good at all, and they were sort of good. But I think people on the outside looking in knew that the foundation wasn't there, and that they looked at that entirely the wrong way. And the Eagles have done things like that over the years. But the Giants were in a very bad position to do something like that because they've been bad for an entire decade now.
Yep.
Yeah.
And for them to mischaracterize where they were in that situation was disastrous for them, I think.
Yep.
And I think that's going to affect them. I think they're the worst team in the division.
Yes.
Frankly,
without question.
And
I
are
don't
going to
think the
be.
Giants are going to win a game this year.
Well,
Yeah,
I think they'll win a game, but I do think they're the worst team in the division.
I think
without
that
question.
Les, you made a
Not going
good
to be
point. I
favored
think,
in any games,
yeah,
even
I
at
think
home.
that with what happened, I don't think it's. I get what you're saying, like Briggs. I get what you're saying with analytics because I'm not a huge analytics guy. I don't think this has to do with analytics. So I think it has to do with the fact that teams are terrified of not having a quarterback.
Yeah.
Terrified of not having a quarterback. So they'll latch on to any chance of them finding one. And they were afraid to make a bold move after they won that playoff game.
Right.
They were afraid to make a bold move and say, like, we need to distance ourselves from Daniel Jones because we know what he is and isn't. They said, he was our quarterback. We won a lot. Let's pay him because we don't know if we have any other options.
They wanted to hope that he was that guy.
You have the Niners out west who haven't paid Brock Purdy and probably won't. You have Dallas in your division that's
they're going to pay
beating
him.
around the bush paying Dak. Like, you don't have to do that.
I understand.
That's already been paid once.
Dak's already been paid like twice, so it don't really matter.
Here.
Yeah, Dak did get his contract,
but
the
point is they're not just throwing a bunch of money at Dak because they think they have to.
Right?
Should they? Probably.
Frankly, in that situation,
but Dak had instant success. It wasn't like Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
Dak wasn't all that great when he first came in.
They went 13. What is it? 13-3 when he was
not because
whatever.
of him. Not
that's
early.
A whole other topic. Let's not get into
that's
a whole other topic.
Built on their offensive line and the running game. Dak's been at his best the last couple of years, which is why he wants the mega deal. And the Cowboys are like, "Whoa, that's too much money," which is actually smart on Dallas's part.
Let's talk about the division next month when we do division previews. But sure. I mean, it's a good conversation. As I said, like this whole Hard Knocks thing is a good conversation in terms of we kind of see now behind the scenes of how teams have these discussions.
Yep.
Like not all fans. Like I know Briggs, you said like we're gonna blow it up because of internet, but like in a sense, like it does help because not a lot of people are able to see how these conversations go. They just know, and so like it's interesting to see how they plan. And I'm sure as you know, before we head out here, I'm sure some of these were staged. I'm pretty sure that conversation between Joe Shane and who's the head coach's name when they were hiring. Dable. When Dable was showing him who he wanted to hire as DC, I'm pretty sure like they dove into like
he already knew that. Yeah, they're going back and recreating that moment.
Exactly. So I mean, I know but like, I think it's good because we see these conversations happen or how they happen. And like I said, from me, I appreciated because I have the background with scouting and player evaluation. Like I appreciated what the scout said compared in contrast to what the rest of the room said because. To me, I'm always going to be a film guy. I'm always going to just, hey, trust the film. And when you have one guy telling everyone else in the room, like, no, Saquon is the exception. He is the difference maker. There's going to be a team that's going to spend the money on him being right. I think it's fun. I think it's a lot of fun. I'm interested to see how the rest of the season goes. So
yes,
I'm excited. Anything else you guys wanted to touch on before we head out?
Well, I was going to say that you'll never see the Eagles do Hard Knocks for just that reason. They don't
I hope not.
Hard Knocks is just a perfect. It's just a perfect barometer of how well run the Eagles have been for the last 20 years.
Well, I think the Eagles just don't. Things happen with the Eagles, but they're not dumb enough to to
Yeah.
invite
Oh,
cameras.
yeah.
The one thing I
They're also not
remember
consistently bad.
right from the last 4 or 5 years, the one thing I remember that I thought was hilarious was the draft where Tom Donahue, where they're showing the Eagles room live, and how he's going around getting his
Yeah.
fist
Yeah.
bumps, and Tom Donahue won't give him a fist bump. And
Yeah.
you know they died over that. I mean, you just know Jeffrey and Howie, like that night, were just had their head in their hands. I'm surprised they didn't like take Tom out and have him shot. He was not with
Like,
the organization much longer after
Oh my
that.
nope.
god.
But
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
I was amazed there was not a tweet the day after
yeah,
discussing his release.
right.
Oh yeah.
It was over Milt Williams and that guy for the Lions.
For the
the
Lions,
defensive
yeah.
tackle what's his
McNeil.
name? Something like
Is it?
that.
I
Yeah.
forget
And
what
it
his
turns
name-
out
yeah.
they're pretty
Ali McNeil.
equivalent. You could go either way on that, really.
Yeah. Ali
The other
McNeil.
guy actually had a better year than Milt had last year, but before that, I think Milt was better. But there are every organization has
Has that.
these little flashes,
Good. Yeah.
and the Eagles are so not wanting you to see theirs.
Yeah. That's what I said. Like everyone was when that clip came out, everyone blew it up like, oh my god, look, people are disagreeing with how we saw. I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure it happens all the time. Like,
Yeah, it does.
you're just
yeah.
seeing it. You're just seeing it now. But I'm pretty sure not every scout is agreeing with Howie on the picks. So, I mean, it is what it is. But Les, thank you for having us on. You can come off screen with us. But for all those who are listening, all the fam, thank you so much for tuning in another week of Eagles Talk. Make sure you tune in to every single one of our shows we've got for you for the rest of the week. Remember, Baggio's Bread, 10% off your in-store purchase when you mention A2D Radio. And so for myself, for Brinks, for PY, and for the one and only Les Bowen, we appreciate your time. Les, we'll see you next week.
Yes, and I'm so sorry to be tardy.
No worries.
Oh, good.
Next week.
All good. I'm glad you came on at all. So always appreciate you. But yeah, for the rest of us here at ATD Radio, God bless. Have a good one. And we will see you same time next week. Peace.
Yes.